My sailing life started off at a pretty young age. As a kid, I bought an old sailboat and rebuilt it. Dug a basement for my brother with a pick and shovel, and for that he bought me a mast, booms, and sail for it. But enough to push a 18-foot canoe through the water pretty darn good. The old canoe was an old town canoe, and she was built about 1919. And this was about 1946 or 7. It began my life of sailing and my connection to boats and marinas and all of that. A little older, about 16, I started sailing with an old man, well up in years, who needed help. And so I sailed with him a lot on Saturdays and Sundays, and I learned a lot from him about sailing. Well, a little later on, about age 20 or so, I got a woodpecker out here on the side of the house. Yeah, it's quit now. At about age 20 or so, the old man passed away. Well, went to his funeral, and his wife told me that he had left me his boat, the Tern. She was an old 1903 Hershoff racing sloop that he had added a cabin on that suited very well. And I was really proud to be the owner of her. I'm going to tell you what, I sold my canoe. Felt like I didn't need it anymore, which was probably a mistake. I wish I still had it. But I enjoyed the marina, and I enjoyed the people in the marina, most of whom I already knew. In late September, we all took the masts out of our boat, because the masts were wooden, you know, and they had galvanized rigging or painted rigging. Some of them were just plain old steel painted. So every winter you had to paint the rigging on your boat, which you did with a piece of rag you dipped in the paint and wiped the rigging down with it. And you had to, she didn't have turnbuckles. You had to replace the lines on the double blocks you had there that you used to tighten the rigging with. And then in the spring, you had uncovered your boat, which you'd covered in the fall, and you began painting and fixing up and revarnishing and doing all of those kinds of things. But there was always other things to do. Sometimes there was a plank to replace. I replaced the stem one year, and then all the frames in the cockpit. Mr. Timms had replaced all the rest of them, but the cockpit area hadn't been done yet, so I replaced all the frames in the cockpit. But I enjoyed the company of the people in the marina. In the spring, everybody helped everybody do all the things that one person couldn't do. And we had a campfire at night. We all sat around and told tales, all the women, all the men. We all sat around there and told tall tales. And some of them lies probably, I don't know. But let me tell you something. A bunch of old men around that marina, they had some stories to tell. Some of them had done some fantastic things on a sailboat. And remember, this was a time when sailboats had a habit of springing a plank and sinking, or springing leaks and all that. No engine. You didn't have any engine. You had to figure out how to get the boat in and out of the dock, either under sail or paddle it in there or row it in there sometimes. When you sail it in, sometimes that was a disaster. I come sailing into the dock one time in the early spring, in March, when winds were up, and I hadn't reworked my boat yet. But and I come sailing into the dock with the wind behind me and dropped the sail not soon enough, and the boat was really moving. Well, coming in there, one of the guys that was with me was afraid we were going to slam into the dock, and he grabbed the line on a piling to slow us down. And of course, I lost control of the boat, and she swung around and hit another man's boat. Knocked a hole in her about a foot in diameter. Well, I had some explaining to do to him, and I apologized and everything I could think of. And of course, I paid for the repair, the cost of it. Him and I did the repair, so I helped him with the work, which was a good thing because I didn't have any money much to spend. And but anyhow, I had a lot of fun in those years. My boat is now in a marina on my Jack Bay in the Chesapeake Bay, and it's about a halfway boat graveyard, I guess. A lot of old boats in there. Some of them are upkept, some aren't. Some don't pay their slip rent, and one day the boats will be sold for scrap or something. But anyway, they have a fireplace and a fire pit, and all of that there too. And a couple of the old timers that have been there for years say they used to have a good time sitting around there telling lies about their sailing exploits. But none of that goes on anymore. Seems like people have lost the art of doing that. And I keep my boat down there, about halfway take care of it. Don't sail it. And I'm sweating out whether or not I can get everything done to it that needs to be done this fall, except maybe a little paint or something in the spring, to have it ready to go for the summer. I've got to get out of this chair I'm sitting in and get out and go sail. It's driving me nuts. So anyway, I just want everybody to know that the real object of this yarn is to tell the young fellas, hey, you can do this. You can go off sailing on a boat. There are boats around in the marina that you can probably buy for $500 and maybe pay the fee for the boat sitting there. So all told, you might have $1,500 on a boat. Well, they all need repair, of course. They've been sitting a lot. Loaded with mildew. You have to scrub all the mildew out of them. You might have to do something with an engine. Probably you don't have to rebuild it. Probably it needs some new wire and maybe a new coil or a new starter or whatever. And change the oil in it. Do all the stuff you need to do to an engine, but you probably can fix the old engine that's in it. But you can take an old boat like that. You might have to do a few things to it. You might want to deck over the cockpit. And put a little footwell in the middle of it so that if you take a wave over top, you won't be carrying 1,500 pounds of water in the cockpit while you pump it out or drain it out. Or you might be able to put big 5-inch diameter scuppers in the transom with valves on them that you can open and close and to let water out if it fills. There's all kinds of ways of doing that. You might put some slats over the windows. A lot of the modern boats have windows that are too big to really to go see in. If you need some sails, you can make your own. You can buy a kit probably for $1,000 from Sailrite and make your own sail, and you can use an old Singer sewing machine to do it. It'll be straight stitched, of course, which is just as good. In fact, it's stronger, I believe. 2 rows of straight stitches is stronger than 1 row of zigzag stitch, which is what most sails have in them. The only advantage of the zigzag stitch is that the sailmaker can easily rip it out to do a repair and doesn't have to charge you quite the fortune he would if he had to rip out single stitch sails. But you can do that yourself. Don't matter how long. If it takes all day to rip the sail out, what difference does it make? You're not getting paid. You're not trying to make a living at it. You're just trying to get your boat sailing. The other thing is, you probably want a girl with you. Most guys do. Well, a halfway tomboy redneck girl that likes men and adventures would be probably your best choice. If she ain't so ugly you can't stand her. But that's very important, because the very domesticated young ladies who have to have all the finest of everything to think they're happy are not suitable for going off on an old boat with a young man that's full of adventure in his spirit, and or maybe a dog might be a better choice if you can do without the sex. I have written a lot on some of the email groups back some years ago about how to do that, and there's a lot of articles on those old email groups if they're still open. So the other thing is, if you're not mechanic enough to fix an engine, get a book or go online and read an article on how to rebuild a small engine. Diesel engines and small gasoline engines are basically the same thing. If you can fix a small engine, all you got to do is apply that knowledge to fixing a diesel engine. It's all the same thing. And read about it online while you're at it. You can become an expert in a month on rebuilding your diesel engine. You don't have to be able to rebuild all of them. Only yours is the only one you got to know about. So anyway, if you're young and you want to go on an adventure, you can do it. You can lay back and look at the midnight stars. There's a billion of them up there, and you can even use them for navigation if you're so inclined, even though there's a heck of a lot easier ways to navigate than that, but you can do it. And it don't take much to learn how to celestial navigate. You can put a few marks on a stick and sight across the marks to the horizon and to the star, and you can measure the angle just by that. A little bit of basic arithmetic, and you know where you are. Don't cost nothing. So anyway, I hope some of you young fellows will think about this a little bit and maybe take me up on it. It'll be good for you.